Hi, I'm Robin.
Hi, and I'm Bill.
Welcome to Not the Retirement Show, broadcast across our international video and podcast networks. Today, we're chatting about why just building a retirement nest egg is a huge mistake. Okay, Bill, that just sounds all wrong. What are we really talking about here?
Well, I think the standard definition of saving for retirement has always been to have enough money to build what is loosely called a nest egg. Now, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but part of the problem is that people are living longer, and you know, unless the nest egg is really big, the chances are that you could run out of money because you're going to live longer. But the biggest part of this, the biggest thing about a nest egg is that unless the nest egg can produce income for you over and above things like your pension income and so forth, unless a nest egg can produce income, then you know it could literally just be sitting there doing nothing, maybe gaining interest or dividends or whatever sort of thing. So it's not a nest egg, which would be referred to as capital, you know, like a retirement fund. A retirement fund in and of itself is fine, but only to a certain level. It's got to produce income, because you know, if you go to the grocery store, you can't say, hey, listen, can I get my groceries because I've got a big nest egg at home. I mean, that's not going to fly. They want money. That's income. You know, that's your income. You've got to have that income in order to pay for the groceries in that case.
Okay, so I think what we need to do is back up a little bit here, because we are definitely not saying don't save extra money for retirement. Absolutely, you need to save, but to understand what we're getting at here, you have to think about how circumstances have changed. Back in the day of our fathers and grandfathers, depending on how old you currently are, they worked one job their whole lives, as you've heard us talk about over and over again, and they had what was called an indexed pension. In other words, as they moved through their retirement life, their pension payment increased to more or less match and keep pace with the rate of inflation. And that money was pretty much guaranteed right to the end of their lives. So for people like that, what they were encouraged to do was to save a little nest egg so that they would have some extra money just for emergencies or a little travel or a couple of luxuries in their retirement. And if they wind up spending the nest egg, they would be okay because they had this index pension that would keep them going for the rest of their lives. Right now, at this point in time, pensions are completely different. They're contributory pensions. And as you've heard Bill explain in other videos, a contributory pension is just whatever amount you and your employer both put in. And yes, it's going to give you a monthly income as it pays out through retirement, but it's not indexed. It does not keep pace with the rate of inflation. So as you get older and older and live longer and longer, as Bill has alluded to, it might not be enough just to even cover your bare monthly expenses alone at the end of your life.
Of course, the other thing, you know, when you talk about the index pension fund, that you've got to remember, and I think a lot of people forget this or overlook this, okay, that if there are two people in the relationship, you know, husband, wife, just, you know, significant other, whatever you want to call it these days, if there are two people in it and one person has a pension fund, indexed or otherwise, okay, unless that pension fund has been declared as for me and or my beneficiary. In other words, you know, when I pass, it will still go to my, you know, significant other, you know, shall we say. But typically you would have found that an index fund was only for the one person. So therefore, you know, when you know, death arrives, if I can say it like that, that pension disappeared. It just disappeared because there was no rollover to the other person. So therefore, the whole point about the nest egg issue that we're talking about here is to have income to you know, sustain both parties, and certainly the remaining spouse or remaining partner for the rest of their life. So therefore, the nest egg, just having capital, in your back pocket, so to speak, is fine. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're not saying don't save, we're absolutely save. But keep in mind that it's the income derived from that nest egg that will sustain you and or your partner, and for that matter, your family through the inheritance. So you leave the nest egg to the kids, but you've got to have income from the nest egg while you're alive.
And Bill is making an excellent point regarding what happens upon the demise of your life partner and a pension. Even a really great one, you need to read the fine print, because even a really great one, which does continue in some form or other for the surviving spouse, quite often it's only at 50% at whatever was the original amount. So in any case, regardless of how you look at it, if you're in a married relationship, if you have two pensions, as Bill says, you could very easily find that the person who lives longer is living on just one pension. But if you have a married partnership where only one person worked and you're relying on that person's pension, you really do need to understand when that person passes away, if the other person is still living, what are they going to be living on? So it's really, really important to save for the future. That the word we used to use for that was nest egg, but now how are you structuring that money so that it lasts a lifetime, so that there's still some left to care for one person at the end of their lives?
Yeah, I think that's the point about the nest egg. And I'll say again, we're in favor of you having your nest egg, if that's what you prefer to call it. But I think nowadays, because you're going to live longer, then you've got to be able to understand how that is going to be invested and how it's going to produce sustainable income for the rest of your life. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of saying, I've got my pension, whether it's a work pension, whatever, I'll get a government pension perhaps, and I'm saving, I've got a savings account or an investment account portfolio, whatever that may be. And over time, they see the number rising and they think, this is wonderful, but they kind of forget, well, wait a minute, how am I going to invest the nest egg monies for the rest of my life, long-term investments, etc., which we've discussed before. We're not going to go into how to invest that money in this particular video, but that's the key issue that you've got to look at. It's not just, let me have the nest egg, or let me build the nest egg and say, whoa, this is looking good, year over year over year, if you're doing that, of course, yeah. It's, what are you going to do with it from an investment point of view?
Well, if you're still listening, we must have said something helpful or insightful. So please subscribe to our channel and we'll chat with you again soon.